public advocate Bill de Blasio, Scott Singer, Borough President of Manhattan, and Edith Cohn, who's going to say a few words. She's actually a survivor, and Senator Eric Adams right here, okay? From Brooklyn, from everywhere. Represents the state of New York. You know, we're standing here outside the offices of a former Secretary of State, National Security Advisor of the United States, Henry Kissinger. And Henry Kissinger's recent remarks, which have caused unbelievable pain, as someone whose parents went through the Holocaust, lost my grandparents at Auschwitz, mother's a survivor of Auschwitz. The words of Henry Kissinger are just beyond belief. And this is what Henry Kissinger said. The immigration of Jews from the Soviet Union is not an objective of American foreign policy. And if they put Jews in the gas chambers in the Soviet Union, it is not an American concern. What a creep! What a creep this man is. This is a man who came to America in 1938 with his parents, and he was one of the lucky few people to escape Nazi Germany. I mean, this man to me is evil. This man is sick, callous, revolting his behavior, beyond the pale for this kind of language. You know, one of the things he said, the only reaction, is you got to view the words in the context of time. I mean, Henry Kissinger's an anti-Semite. This is what anti-Semites do. It is beyond belief. And we are here today to demand from him an apology. And we are also reaching out to universities that have given him doctorates, have given him honor, to say that honor is to be withdrawn. Hebrew University, Tel Aviv University, all these places in Israel that have honored him as a great man. He is not a great man. He's a miserable man. He's a creep. I want to call him a pig. That's how I feel about him, honestly. I think he's a pig. Such behavior from a Jew who survived, who was lucky enough to survive. We're going to call on J.P. Morgan and AIG, American Express, and others who have given him honor. He's on the board of these organizations, this man, that they remove him. They dump him, you know, sort of in the street. What a creep. And we're all waiting for an apology. An apology. The pain that he has caused Holocaust survivors, the children of Holocaust survivors, and to everybody, to all decent people everywhere. I want to introduce to you the public advocate who has spoken out on this, Bill de Blasio.
Thank you, Dov. And thank you. I want to first thank Dov Hikind for sounding the alarm here. You know, I think we've learned enough about history to know that when intolerance and bias are accepted, when we look the other way, it only begins the process of the next horrible act occurring. And Henry Kissinger, for a long time, has gotten honors that he doesn't deserve. His crimes, his bias, his prejudice have been swept under the rug. And when you listen to this, listen to the fact that he literally said, it's not our concern if people die. It's not our concern if people's human rights are taken away. And then, when challenged, he attempts to put it into some kind of context. What kind of context can you give to a statement that literally says people can die and the United States of America just doesn't care? How do you explain that away? His words are monstrous. They are monstrous today. They were monstrous 37 years ago. There's no way to put a good face on it. And it shouldn't be accepted. This is a man, by the way, who undermined democracy in many parts of the world, most notably in Chile in 1973, while talking about American values, literally supported the overthrow of a democratic government. This has been a pattern with Henry Kissinger, and somehow he continues to be honored and put on boards, and it's time for it to stop. And it's not just a matter of symbolism. It's a matter of holding accountable people who've done wrong. You know, you hear from people who watched idly while genocides were committed. You hear remorse. It's a constant historical pattern. Just recently, Bill Clinton was once again saying how upset he was at his own inaction in Rwanda. And the right action of anyone who stands idly by is to recognize later the harm they caused and to try and educate people and say never again. But Henry Kissinger literally told the President of the United States it was okay for this to happen, for people to go to their deaths. And now, 37 years later, when he could say, I was wrong, when he could say, in the moment I made a mistake, it was unacceptable, it should never happen again, when he could call upon world leaders to never accept that kind of behavior again, he says, well, you gotta understand the times we were living in. There's no time in history when genocide is acceptable. There's no time when the denial of human rights is acceptable. There's no time when the United States of America can act against its own values and we can actually believe we're the same country we were meant to be. We're here to say the world finally has seen who Henry Kissinger is, and let's never forget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill de Blasio. Next, the Borough President of Manhattan, Scott Stringer.
Well, thank you, Assemblyman Dov Hikind, for bringing us together, and I'm glad to be here with Public Advocate Bill de Blasio and Senator Eric Adams and members of the Jewish community from around the city. I actually feel very upset about what's occurred with Henry Kissinger. Growing up in Washington Heights, where Henry Kissinger is from, we as Jews, whether Jews from Nazi Germany who had to come here, or in my case, my family from the Soviet Union, all of us growing up in the neighborhood understood that Henry Kissinger was part of our community. Whether you were Democrat or Republican, you had to admire this man. He was somebody parents talked to, that this is Henry Kissinger's neighborhood. And the one thing Jews felt was a sense of pride in his accomplishments, even in very difficult times in the 70s. And it is very sad today to have to criticize somebody that generations of parents asked us to look up to. Because Henry Kissinger's success shows that others can have that success even when you come from other places. And it took Dov a lot for me to have to denounce this man, to say to him that to criticize our way of life, the fact that Soviet Jews who came to this country and made such a great contribution in the arts, and culture, the sciences, the people who came from the Soviet Union who fled under very difficult circumstances back in the 70s. While he was initiating foreign policy, people struggled to come to this country. And how fortunate we are to have Soviet Jews here today who've made a tremendous contribution the way other groups have as well. So I feel very heartfelt to have to call him what he is. Somebody who is a very, very much a bigoted person. Somebody who has misplaced his role in history. And he will never be held to the standard that he once was. He will never be somebody that generations will respect because, like so many like him, he actually looked at the worst of humanity and not the best. And that's why we're here today.
Next, we're going to have Senator Adams and then a Holocaust survivor of Auschwitz, and her reaction to this as well. Senator Eric Adams.
Thank you, Dave. I think it's important to hear from the survivor. As cold as it is outside, we're going to take the gloves off on this issue, and we're going to have a very strong stance on one cannot hide behind the American flag their bigotry and hatred throughout the years. 37 years ago does not change the pain and suffering of those who lost parents, those who went an entire generation of classroom of children that didn't have grandparents. We cannot ignore what Henry Kissinger did yesterday. Because if we ignore what happened 37 years ago yesterday, then we're laying a foundation of those who would do horrific acts today and hide behind the guise of the American flag to say it happened back then. Back then and today is the same distance of time. The intensity of the pain is still real, and we have to take that in consideration. We demand an apology, and then more so, All those awards and degrees that hangs on Henry Kissinger's wall should be removed, and we must not be revisionists. We must let history truly reflect who Henry Kissinger was and what he did to the countless number of men and women who cried out and left their blood on the battlegrounds of Poland and other horrific places where Nazi Germany existed. We cannot desecrate their graves by permitting Henry Kissinger to survive untarnished, believing that he's a hero. He's not a hero. He was part and parcel, a partner, a silent partner to the prevention of allowing many of those who were persecuted and prosecuted from coming to freedom in this country called America.
Thank you. I just came back a short while ago from Auschwitz, my first time ever, and actually saw where my mother and where Edith, where she got out of the cattle car. And I actually saw the gas chambers that literally millions of people walked down to be gassed, men, women, and children, including my grandparents. So these kind of remarks, these horrible, horrible, horrible remarks to come from a Jew, in this case a self-hating Jew, a court Jew, is just beyond comprehension. And why he hasn't apologized already, I mean, God only knows why he just hasn't said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I still wouldn't forgive him, by the way, but why not say it? Edith Cohn was there, and only she can tell you the kind, how she reacts to this man who survived, not like much of her family, what it is like to hear this fellow Jew make these kind of remarks. Edith Cohn from Borough Park, survivor of Auschwitz.
It pains me very much when I heard about this remark, because my whole family was wiped out, and if people like him survive, shouldn't talk like that, and if people would have been more outspoken, a lot of people would have survived. My whole family, nobody survived. I'm the only one, and God gave us here in America, and we can be free, and we can live, and people like them who talk like that, it's just a shame, and Kissinger should talk like that as a Jew.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to ask, if anybody wants to ask anything, please.
Yeah, Mayor Bloomberg, I believe in May, won the Henry Kissinger Award, which honors international humanitarian, and there's some in the Jewish community who feel he should give that back. Are you aware of this? Your
Yeah, of
opinion?
course I'm aware of it. Of course, after these remarks have become public, of course the mayor should not give it back. He should publicly dump it in the garbage, publicly, and make a statement that would be extremely powerful. It's not only about Henry Kissinger. He's a horror story, okay? But it's about others who would do the same thing behind closed doors, where it isn't on the front pages of the newspapers, where they're saying things, whether it's about Darfur or it's about something else going on in the world. We don't care about that. Now we find out Henry Kissinger's a creep. There's nothing else to say about him. I called him a pig. You know why? Because I couldn't think of anything else to say about him. Someone who could be so callous. You know what it means to me? A guy who survived in 1938, came to this country, lived in Washington Heights, and he tells the President of the United States that if they put Jews into the gas chambers, it's none of our business. That's what happened during World War II. It was nobody's business about Jews being murdered all over Europe. So, yeah, the mayor should throw it in the trash can at a public ceremony, and that will send a very powerful message to the entire world. So Mayor Bloomberg dumped that award.